The search for a new home had been a long, exhausting crusade that seemed to stretch across months of disappointing open houses and cramped apartments. My parents had scoured the city, desperate to find a sanctuary that bridged the impossible gap between the high-pressure demands of my father's office and the strict morning bells of my school. When Dad finally announced he had found a place, a spacious house nestled in a quiet neighborhood, it felt like a victory. But the moment we pulled into the driveway, my heart sank with a cold, instinctive weight. The new house was charming enough, with fresh paint and a well-kept lawn, but my gaze was immediately pulled toward the property line directly behind us. There, looming like a skeletal monument to another era, stood an old abandoned house. Its gray wood was peeling like dead skin, and its windows were dark, hollow sockets that seemed to watch our arrival with a silent, brooding hunger. Usually, I wasn't the type of girl to be unsettled by ghost stories or urban legends, but this structure was different. It possessed a heavy, suffocating atmosphere that radiated across the fence. To make matters worse, my bedroom was situated at the very back of our new home. When I walked into my room for the first time, I realized with a jolt of dread that the abandoned house wasn't just nearby. It was my primary view. From my window, the top floor of that decaying ruin felt close enough to touch, its jagged silhouette carving a hole in the evening sky. "Mom," I started, my voice small as I watched the movers haul boxes past my door. "Couldn't Dad find any other house? I really don't like my room. I can see that thing from here." I pointed a trembling finger at the abandoned house looming outside. My mother sighed, the sound of a woman who had reached the end of her patience. She didn't even look out the glass. "Annie, don't you have any idea the struggle your father went through to find a decent place for us? We looked for weeks. This is a good home. Then you guys take my room, and I'll take yours," I pleaded, my chest tightening. "I don't want to stay in here. I hate it. It feels like it's watching me." "Annie, stop throwing tantrums," she replied, her tone sharpening into a warning. "Instead of focusing on these foolish, negative things, help me get the house sorted. Unpack your stuff. Get your room set up the way you like it. Put up some posters, hide the window if you have to. There's a mountain of work left to be taken care of. Come on, be a good girl and help your mother." I knew that tone. It was the final word. No matter how much I complained or how much I shivered when the sun went down, they wouldn't give me the master bedroom. I was stuck here, caught in the gaze of a dead house. After a few days, the initial shock began to wear thin. The routine of school and the physical exhaustion of unpacking helped me settle in. I bought heavy curtains, and slowly, my paralyzing fear of the abandoned house began to fade into a dull, manageable unease. But then, the stillness of the night broke. It was exactly 9 p.m. I was tucked into my bed, the covers pulled up to my chin, trying to drift off into sleep. The room was silent, save for the faint creaking of the new floorboards settling. For some reason, my eyes were drawn toward the window. I hadn't closed the curtains all the way, and a sliver of the outside world peeked through. My breath hitched. My blood turned to ice in my veins. On the top floor of the abandoned house, framed perfectly by the window opposite mine, stood a figure. It was a silhouette, dark and motionless, staring directly at me. There was no mistaking it for a shadow or a trick of the light. The posture was deliberate, the focus absolute. I felt a primal wave of disturbance wash over me. At first, I tried to fight the terror. "It's just a shadow," I told myself, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. "You're imagining things because you're tired." I squeezed my eyes shut and counted to 10, reassuring myself that when I opened them, the window would be empty. But when I looked again, the person was still there, unmoving, watching. I scrambled out of bed, my feet hitting the cold floor as I bolted for the hallway. "Mom, open the door. Mom!" I pounded on my parents' bedroom door, my voice rising in a frantic crescendo. "Mom, open the door." The door swung open, and my mother stood there, rubbing sleep from her eyes, looking more annoyed than concerned. "What's wrong, Annie?" "It's late." "Mom, I saw someone. There's someone standing in the window of the abandoned house." I grabbed her arm, pulling her toward my room. "Please just come and see. They're watching me." She followed me reluctantly. We stood in the center of my room, staring out into the darkness. Where, Annie? There's no one there. I looked. The window across the way was a black void. The figure was gone. But he was there, I swear. Listen to me, she said, placing her hands on my shoulders. At night, even normal things can seem abnormal. Shadows stretch, trees move in the wind. This is exactly why I keep telling you not to watch so many of those horror movies. Your brain is playing tricks on you. Mom, I swear on everything, there was someone in the window. Sleep, she commanded softly but firmly. You have school tomorrow. It was nothing. You were just imagining it. Now get back in bed. I didn't sleep well that night. The next evening, the dread returned with the sunset. I stayed away from the window as long as I could, but as I got ready for bed, the compulsion to look became overwhelming. I crept toward the glass and peered out. The figure was back. It stood in the exact same spot, a silent sentinel in the ruins. I didn't hesitate this time. I didn't try to rationalize it. I screamed, Mom, Mom, come here quickly. I heard her heavy footsteps in the hall. You didn't believe me, I yelled as she burst in. You told me I was imagining things. Look, see? Someone is right there. She leaned in close to the glass, squinting into the gloom of the backyard. She stayed there for a long time, her eyes scanning the top floor of the old house. Finally, she stepped back and sighed. Oh, where did he go, Annie? I see nothing but an old, empty building. But he was just... Annie, do you have any idea what time it is? She hissed. You started shouting at this hour, waking the whole house. Don't you care that your father is exhausted? He's trying to sleep. But Mom, that house is supposed to be empty. If no one lives there, who would be standing at the window? That's what I'm trying to tell you. Exactly, she countered. That is the point. The house is empty. It's a ruin. No one is in there. Yes, exactly. That's why I'm so shocked. Isn't it weird? Doesn't it scare you? My mother paused, her expression softening slightly as a thought occurred to her. Look, Annie, it's Halloween season. You know how the neighborhood kids are. I'm sure some of them are just playing a prank on the new girl. They probably snuck in there to give you a scare. I blinked, the logic finally piercing through my panic. A prank? Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. A surge of irritation began to replace my fear. Some kid must be playing a trick on me. Exactly, Mom said, patting my hand. Just some bored teenagers. Please get some sleep now. Okay. I nodded, but as she left the room and closed the door, a new resolve took root in my mind. I wasn't going to be a victim of some neighborhood bully. If some little brat thought they could spend their nights hovering in a dusty window to terrify me, they were mistaken. I decided right then that I was going to catch that little tormentor. I wanted to see their face, find out who they were, and then I would march right to their parents' front door. They'd be grounded until Christmas, left without a single piece of Halloween candy. The next night, I waited until 9 p.m. I didn't look out my window. Instead, I grabbed a flashlight, slipped out the back door, and set out for the abandoned house. The air was crisp and smelled of dying leaves. As I crossed the overgrown yard, the abandoned house seemed to grow, its silhouette blotting out the stars. When I reached the porch, the wood groaned under my weight. I entered the front door, and the darkness inside was absolute, thick, heavy, and smelling of damp earth and rot. I had arrived feeling brave, fueled by indignation, but now a cold shiver of genuine fear began to return. My flashlight beam cut a narrow, shaky path through the dust motes. I moved slowly, carefully, my heart thumping in my ears. I began to climb the staircase, the steps shrieking with every movement. I knew the layout from watching it so long. The person had been on the top floor. I reached the landing and pushed open the door to the master bedroom. I panned my light around the room. It was skeletal, peeling wallpaper, a discarded chair, and thick layers of grime. And right there was the window through which I had been watched. I walked over to it and looked out. From its vantage point, I could see my own bedroom perfectly. It was a bright, warm cube of light in the darkness. Oh, I whispered, looking around the empty, silent room. There's no one here. The realization hit me like a physical blow. The room was vacant. No footprints in the thick dust. No place to hide. Then, Motion caught my eye from across the yard. I looked through the glass toward my own house, toward my own lighted bedroom window. My heart stopped. There, standing in my bedroom, was my mother. She was looking toward the abandoned house, her face etched with a strange, blank expression. "Mom!" I shouted, though she couldn't possibly hear me through the distance and the glass. "Mom, I'm here. Look over here." I waved my arms frantically. "Mom, I'm here." Panic, sharp and blinding, took hold of me. I turned and sprinted for the stairs. I flew down the steps, my only thought being to get back to the safety of my own home, to the warmth of my family. I reached the front door and grabbed the handle, yanking with all my might. It didn't move. "What?" I gasped, pulling again. The door, which had been standing wide open when I entered, was now shut tight. It felt like it wasn't just locked, but fused into the frame. It was jammed. I threw my entire body weight against it, sobbing now, but it wouldn't budge an inch. "Please, someone open the door." I screamed, hammering my fists against the wood until they bruised. "I'm stuck here. Please, Mom. Dad, someone open the door." I looked around the dark foyer. The shadows seemed to lengthen and curl toward me. The silence of the house was no longer empty. It felt full, heavy with a presence that didn't belong to the living. "Oh, God!" I whimpered, collapsing against the door. "Where am I stuck? Please help me." From the darkness above, a low, chilling laughter began to echo down the stairs, a sound that was hollow, ancient, and terrifyingly familiar. I looked up, screaming into the void, but my voice was swallowed by the rotting walls of the house. Across the yard, in the warm, brightly lit bedroom of the new house, the figure that looked exactly like Annie turned away from the window. It smiled at Annie's mother, who was tucked into the hallway, unsuspecting. The evil spirit had found a new home, leaving the real Annie trapped behind the glass of the ruin, a new silhouette for the next person to fear.